The daughter of American slaves, Sarah Breedlove, had every chance to die in poverty, but instead earned millions thanks to a successful idea and hard work. In 1865, slavery was abolished in America. Did yesterday's slaves become happier after that? Not particularly. They were forbidden literally everything. For example, to create families with white partners, buy land, own weapons, unlike whites, and even sit down at a table in the same cafe with whites. They could not participate in the elections either. They could work and get paid, but it was on paper. In fact, former slaves usually continued to work hard for their yesterday's masters, while paying them pennies. Cornered free African Americans often got drunk from such a life. The more amazing is the story of the first black millionaire. When Sarah was born, the slaves had been freed by the new law for 2 years, but her parents managed to work hard on cotton plantations in Louisiana. The girl was only 7 years old when she was left an orphan. She was raised by her older sister. Well, how she was raised, she and her tyrant husband used the girl as a free servant, not hesitating to load the baby to the fullest and severely punish for mistakes. Tired of such a life, at the age of 14, Sarah got married and left with her husband. However, new misfortunes soon followed. Her husband died. According to some reports, he was lynched by whites. This happened during another race clash. Sarah was only 20 years old at the time, and she already had a 2-year-old daughter. The young woman decided to move to Missouri, where her 3 older brothers lived, and found a job as a laundress there. The salary was barely more than $1 a day, and the work was hard and harmful. Sarah constantly had to come into contact with alkali. It corroded her hands. And soon Sarah noticed with horror. Her hair is falling out. There is a lot of dandruff. Many of her fellow tribesmen faced the same problems then. African Americans, barely making ends meet, did not have the opportunity to wash their hair often. They ate poorly and often got sick. The young worker, of course, did not want to turn into an old woman ahead of time, and she began to try various pharmacy ointments and ointments on herself. She experimented, mixed different components, and finally, she managed to create several completely new ointments, which contained sulfur. First, the brothers who worked as barbers, and then all their friends, neighbors, and relatives began literally begging Sarah for a miraculous remedy, from which the hair became healthy and beautiful, and the scalp was cleansed of sores. Sarah's invention was soon discovered in other states. A chain of family ties worked. Poor African Americans often roamed the country in search of work, and many of them suffered from skin and hair diseases. Meanwhile, Sarah was expanding her knowledge of hair care. She got a job as an agent for Annie Malone. This entrepreneur sold shampoos and other hair care products. And Sarah actively delved into the intricacies of production, learned everything that was available to her. One day it dawned on a woman, after all, no one makes cosmetics specifically for blacks. If you occupy this niche, you can count on a good profit. And indeed, it never even occurred to business owners to develop this segment. Why would the blacks need cosmetics? When Sarah moved to Denver with her daughter, she was 37 years old. She still worked as Malone's agent, but at the same time, she was developing her own line of shampoos and ointments for hair. Her cosmetics were supposed to revolutionize the business world. After all, before the line for blacks simply did not exist. Sarah married Charles Walker and came up with a name for her still small business, Madam C.G. Walker. Soon, with the support of her husband, the enterprising Madame began selling her products through a network of agents. Thanks to her unique efficiency and commercial flair, Sarah quickly achieved success. She took the matter as seriously and responsibly as possible. I traveled around the country giving lectures on hair care. I recruited agents, trained them in the right approach to people. She immediately set up a uniform for her traveling salesmen. Girls in strict white blouses and dark long skirts wore elegant black satchels on their backs. They could be seen at the doors of houses in different cities and states. Smiling agents of Madam C.J. Walker offered shampoos, hair balms, oil, ointments for psoriasis, and also decorative cosmetics created specifically for dark-skinned beauties. In addition, the traveling salesman had special combs for straightening their hair. After all, many African Americans really wanted to have straight hair, not curly like whites. But Madame was not limited to trading. Remembering her joyless childhood, the hard fate of her parents, and many acquaintances, Sarah promoted a new attitude towards themselves. She explained that in order to get out of poverty and achieve success, you need to become different, change, start taking care of your body and hair, and observe personal hygiene. We must finally forget that we were slaves. Blacks are capable of more than the work of a cleaner or a worker in the field. They may as well study as whites and become, for example, businessmen. And not only men, but also women. Sarah's business was booming. She opened more and more beauty salons, trained new batches of agents and stylists, produced new cosmetics, and improved existing ones. An adult daughter, like her husband, helped her in everything, so the business quickly became a family business. In 1917, when Sarah was 50 years old, 20,000 women already worked for her company, and the central office was located in a prestigious area of New York. Her company's advertising could be seen everywhere, and the Madame C. J. Walker Manufacturing Company brand became famous in Haiti, Jamaica, Cuba, and other remote corners. All black women bought her products. Everyone wanted to have a healthy scalp, beautiful hair, and everyone used Sarah's shampoos and balms. She also began teaching women of color how to run a business. At her first conference, which later became an annual one, African American women discussed how to create and maintain business ties, how to build commerce. At these conferences, Sarah Walker distributed her products to the participants for free. Sarah was now earning so much that she could afford literally any whim. For example, to buy a luxury villa with 20 rooms, to put a shining gold piano and the best organ worth $60,000. Of course, she wore the best dresses and diamonds, drove her own car, and often appeared in the most expensive restaurants. But it wasn't just the display of wealth that was her life. Madame Walker is remembered as a kind person. She created schools for black girls and directed funds to combat racism. In total, Sarah spent 2/3 of her earned fortune on charity. She even left a luxurious house to her brothers and sisters, the Association for the Progress of the Colored Population. At 51, Sarah Walker suffered a stroke. She died rich, respected, and loved. Her daughter took over the management of the business, but unfortunately, the Great Depression of 1929 proved to be an insurmountable obstacle, and the trademark created by the Slumdog Millionaire died. And the legend of Sarah Breedlove, Madame Walker, still lives. She inspires and reminds that each of us can succeed.